On the wedding day, my best friend said that the baby in her belly was actually my husband's. Seeing that I didn't believe her, she took out a video of an intense encounter with my husband. With tears in my eyes, I questioned why she did this to me. She whispered in my ear, "Because I want both those who love me and those I love." I pushed her over in anger. My husband, who had always been gentle, slapped me upside the head, making my head spin. The back of my head slammed into the hard corner of the table, and I subconsciously covered my stomach. Seeing my mother-in-law burst in, the one who had always treated me like a daughter, I called out to her urgently, "Save me, mother-in-law, save my..." Before I could finish my sentence, my mother-in-law clamped her rough hand over my mouth and nose. When I woke up again, to my surprise, I found myself back 2 months earlier. "Save my baby!" I suddenly sat up in bed and subconsciously touched my stomach, only to find it flat. Beads of sweat slid down my forehead, and I reached for my cell phone and saw the date on it. It was then that I was convinced I had been reborn 2 months before the wedding. "Honey, having a nightmare?" James beside me was awakened by me, and he sat up and naturally put his arm around my waist. The man in front of me was my boyfriend who I had been dating for 2 years and was about to get married. He took care of me in every possible way and was considerate and caring during our relationship. My best friend Sarah even praised me for finding a gem. He had a worried look on his face, but all I felt was disgust. "Go to bed first." I put on my clothes and went to the bathroom, my heart seething with anger. Before taking the stage in my previous life's wedding, I was touching up my makeup backstage when Sarah, my best friend dressed in a bridesmaid's gown, approached me and whispered in my ear with a smile, "I'm having a baby." 3 months along. I stood up in shock. Sarah was my roommate in college and later became a BFF. After graduation, in order to keep in touch, she even came to work in the city where I lived. No wonder her boyfriend, Mike, begged me for help and asked me to make sure I threw the bouquet to her today. He seems to be planning to propose to her at the wedding. "Congratulations on becoming a..." "The baby is James's." Her words rang like thunder in my ears. "Are you kidding?" She had been dating Mike for 3 years, so how could the child be James's? I told her to stop kidding around, and she placed her phone in front of me, opened the hidden space, and played a random video. In the video she was naked, and the man beneath her had his suit loosely hanging off him and scattered on the floor. She gently cupped his face, revealing James's face. "You too." "Why?" I confronted her, but she casually said, "I've thought about it, and I want the people who love me and the people I love." How can you say something so shameless? The anger of being betrayed by my best friend and boyfriend at the same time burned fiercely in my heart. I pushed her to the ground, sat on top of her and choked her by the neck, but tears could not help but fall. "Why are you doing this to me? You're my best friend." She ruined my wedding, which I had been meticulously preparing for 3 months. She looked at me defiantly and then called James's name. Just as I couldn't help but want to slap her, James rushed in and kicked me in the stomach, sending me flying. The back of my head slammed into the hard corner of the table. When I reached out, I felt something sticky. "Are you okay?" James carefully held Sarah in his arms. At that moment, my stomach also started to hurt intensely. "My child," I had planned to tell James on the night of the wedding, but I never expected. Fortunately, God gave me a second chance. I'm going to make this shitty couple pay. When I claimed down and came out, James was standing in the doorway waiting for me. The neckline of his pajamas was wide open, revealing his muscles. There's no denying that he was really something. Both his face and his body were impressive. "Honey, I see you really want a child. How about we do it today?" James had somehow gotten a glass of red wine and handed it to me, the look in his eyes unmistakable. In my previous life, I conceived a child on this day. I originally insisted on having a child after marriage, but after drinking this glass of wine, James and I took the natural next step. At that time, I thought it was because I couldn't control myself after drinking. But now that I think about it, it's a bit unusual because I actually lost all the memories of that time afterwards. Obviously, he added something to it. With a slap landed, James didn't expect it at all, The wine glass in his hand became unsteady, shattered into pieces. He stared at me, his eyes wide with bewilderment. I hid the chill in my eyes and opened my hand to show him the mosquito in my hand. "Hubby, this annoying mosquito was sucking your blood just now. Didn't I hurt you?" His face darkened slightly. He was indeed quite shocked and probably wouldn't be able to recover for a while. "Aunt Flo is here. Maybe next time." It wasn't long after he laid down that his phone rang. Before he could come out of the bathroom, I quickly glanced at it. "Sarah, a baby." I found out later, and James told me calmly that he had forgotten to change the name. At that time, he had just broken up with Sarah. Sarah and I were roommates in college. We got along well and had good conversations, so we became close girlfriends. On Valentine's Day, I, who had been single all my life, was introduced to James by her. After getting along with him, I found he was quite a good person, so we started dating. A few months later, I learned from another roommate that James was Sarah's ex-boyfriend. At that time, I felt very embarrassed. The situation was too complicated. When the three of us were together, I couldn't tell who James was thinking about. I wanted to break up with James, but he swore that he was completely done with Sarah. When Sarah heard that I wanted to break up with James, she specially took me out and introduced her new boyfriend to me, and she privately promised me that she no longer had any feelings for him and that they were just ordinary friends. Under James's desperate pleading, I decided to set aside my doubts and establish a proper relationship with him. Sarah called a few times in a row, but I ignored them and didn't expect her to send me a message. "Is James there?" As if sensing something was off, she sent another message. "Mike has something to talk to him about, and have him call me back as soon as possible." If it were before, I would have replied to her obediently. But now that I thought about it carefully, shouldn't Mike directly contact James if he has something to discuss? Why bother asking her to pass on the message? I felt like I really trusted them too much. How could I not have realized such a strange issue earlier? When James came out of the bathroom, I told him about the call. He snatched up his phone, eyes darting my way the whole time. Seeing I wasn't acting suspicious, he blew out a long breath. After he sneakily read all the messages, he couldn't wait to find an excuse to go out. Before leaving, he kissed my forehead, telling me to rest early and not to wait for him. As soon as the door closed, I quickly put on my jacket and followed him. In my previous life, the video that Sarah showed me was dated today. I took a taxi and followed behind James's car. There was some traffic and I unexpectedly lost him. The driver saw I was wearing slippers and couldn't help but ask with concern, "Miss, what are you in such a hurry for?" Without thinking, I answered him directly, "My boyfriend is cheating on me." The driver's eyes instantly widened, and with a look of concern, he switched on the taxi driver's exclusive chat channel. A white car, license plate number 9523, helped me locate that son of a bitch. In no time at all, he got James's route through the other taxi drivers. The driver stepped on the accelerator, consoling me while chasing after him. "Girl, he's just a scumbag. Don't be sad. There are still a lot of good men in the world. When you get rid of the scumbag, I can introduce you to some good men." I thanked the driver and followed James to a hotel where I saw him enter a room with my own eyes. The door was tightly closed, but the people inside didn't try to hide, and the soundproofing seemed to be poor. As long as I pressed my ear against the door, I could hear their voices clearly. I pressed my phone against the crack in the door and turned on the recording. "We only saw each other yesterday, and you already miss me?" Sarah answered James with a sweet, drawn-out voice. "Yes, I miss you so much. I want to be with you every day. I saw your Moments post today, and you both went to try on wedding dresses. Are you jealous? You silly jealous thing." Then there was a loud noise. "A wedding dress doesn't mean anything. After you get married, you'll still think about me, won't you? You really are a little demon." Their voices gradually faded, leaving only the sound of panting breaths. My hands began to tremble with anger. Although I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I could already imagine what was going on inside. The images in the video were still vivid in my mind. Initially, James took the initiative to avoid any suspicion in order to take care of my feelings. He wouldn't go to attend any events where Sarah was present. Later, I asked James not to do that, since after all both he and Sarah were the most important people to me, and I trusted them. Some once ignored details resurfaced in my mind. One time, the three of us went out for a drink together. Halfway through, I got drunk. Sarah said she was going to buy me some milk, and not long after, James also went to the bathroom. The two came back one after the other. Sarah's shirt collar was so low I could see the red mark on her chest when I looked down, her lipstick smudged and faded. At that time, I didn't notice Sarah and James's flirtatious glances at each other, and foolishly reminded her to reapply her lipstick. More than once, the two of them disappeared under my very nose at the same time. These signs have been around for 2 years. When the voices inside gradually died down, I picked up my phone and turned around to leave. The next day I woke up at my parents' house and checked my silent phone. It was full of missed calls and messages from James. I didn't realize he had returned in the middle of the night. What a time management guru. I put my phone aside and had breakfast with my parents. My mother hesitated for a long time before talking to me about the bride price. "Emma, why don't you talk to James again? They find the $8,800 amount too high, so we can ask for a bit less." "I don't want any of that bride price." I said, "I'll give you the $18,000 dowry as well as the family funds for you two in the future." My father took a sip of tea and expressed his dissatisfaction with the bride price as well. "It's not the money we want, it's the attitude. If they won't even pay a single cent for the bride price, how much would you suffer marrying into their family?" My family is well off. My parents are both retired employees. In contrast, James's parents are both unemployed and rely on James to support the family. In my previous life, my future mother-in-law approached me, asserting that James and I were in love and were youths of the new era, believing we shouldn't be confined by such an outdated custom as the bride price. I thought about what she said and realized that she was right. Plus, their family situation was really bad, so I agreed. But I had a hard time explaining it to my parents, so I paid the $5,000 myself, claiming it was the bride price from James. Only then my parents' attitude softened a bit. I actually thought my future mother-in-law treated me like her own daughter. It wasn't until I remembered the curses she had uttered while suffocating me. "How dare you kick my precious grandson? I'll kill you. You bitch, go to hell." I hate myself for being so stupid. I didn't see her true colors until death. This time, I won't fall for her tricks again. Dad and Mom, I think you're right. Not a single penny of the $8,800 bride price should be reduced. I never returned James's phone calls, and in the afternoon, he came to my door, accompanied by his mother, Karen. As soon as she saw me, Karen beamed. "Emma, did James make you angry? Tell Mom, and I'll teach him a lesson." She looked like she was taking my side. James looked at me innocently, came forward to take my hand, but I pulled away. "Honey, if you're upset, you can hit me or scold me, but don't get yourself worked up and harm your health. I'll go home and make you some soup." What a model husband he's putting on an act as. I didn't directly expose what he did yesterday because I wanted to play along with them. To end it now would be too easy for them. "No, you didn't do anything wrong, you're just perfect." Karen didn't seem to pick up on my innuendo. She grabbed my hand. After glancing around and realizing my parents weren't there, she asked me, "I knew there was a little conflict between you two. The bride price was just something you said in anger, right?" "Mom, Emma is a good girl, so why would she ask for something like a bride price?" James was trying to put a big label on me, but unfortunately I wasn't buying it. Watching the two of them tag-teaming made me disgusted to vomit. The bride price is not negotiable. Either pay up in full, or the wedding's off. Or maybe you can go find another bride instead. I was very determined. Karen tried to persuade me for a while, even putting on a show of distress by punching James repeatedly. "Come on, you better apologize to Emma." "Emma, I'm wrong. Hit me or scold me all you want. Let's go back and discuss the bride price properly, okay?" No matter what they say, I just wouldn't agree. In the end, Karen shot me a glare and left with James. They didn't go far, and their voices echoed in the corridor. "I told you to strike first. If she had a child, would she still dare ask us for the bride price?" "Mom, I did what you said last time. but the medicine got spilled. Stupid. Now we have to pay $8,800 for the bride price, and don't even know if she can even have a baby. What's the point of spending on this? Less than half an hour later, Sarah called me. I guess James told her. I tentatively told her that I didn't want to marry James. She quickly urged me not to act on impulse. She also said that James was head over heels in love with me, while acting like a good best friend herself. If I hadn't seen the affair between her and him, I'm afraid her well-intentioned advice could have really changed my mind. I don't want to go through with this marriage. If you like, you can go ahead and get married. She hastily denied. How could that be? What happened between him and me is in the past. Now we are just friends, and you are his girlfriend. Emma, did James do something? What made you suddenly? She was smart and already wondering if her affair with James had been exposed. No, I want to slow down. You're not still hung up on what happened before, are you? I actually was pregnant with Mike, and we're getting married next month. Great. Since you haven't gotten the marriage certificate yet, let's get it done next week and we can have a joint wedding. What? So sudden? Sarah was taken aback by my sudden decision. We're best friends, graduating together, getting our marriage certificates together, and getting married together would be even more meaningful, wouldn't it? She hesitated for a long time before replying. Okay. At the registry, the four of us, James, Sarah, Mike, and I, sat together. The staff began processing our marriage licenses. James's and Sarah's eyes kept meeting. I propped my head up with my hand and said to Mike, "Congratulations, Sarah is pregnant. You're going to be a father, and when the baby is born, you have to let me be the godmother, and James will be the godfather." Mike was ecstatic, nervously holding Sarah's hand. Really? Sarah, why didn't you tell me? In my previous life, she hadn't told Mike so soon. This time, I'll give her a hand. I walked up to Sarah and put an arm around her shoulder, beaming. How far along is the baby? I need to start preparing a gift for my godson or goddaughter. Mike couldn't wait to press his ear against her stomach. A month, just a month. I was going to tell you in a few days. Sarah glanced at James apprehensively while his face turned livid. With her words, I suddenly remembered something. A month ago when it was Sarah's birthday, Mike was away on business. Sarah got drunk, and I was afraid that something would happen if she were alone, so I asked James to personally take her home. He didn't come back until late that night. I couldn't hold my drink, so I went to bed early. When I woke up the next day with a splitting headache, I had forgotten about it. It seems the two of them had an earth-shattering encounter that day. If Mike had been more cautious, he might have been able to discover something. Unfortunately, like I was in my previous life, he trusted those two people too much. Sarah suddenly buried her head and vomited. James quickly placed a hand on her back to pat it. He didn't remove it until he saw Mike's disapproving gaze. James looked somewhat absent-minded. Sarah was really sick, so she asked Mike to continue the process and then ran out. James also made an excuse to go out for a smoke. After sitting for 2 minutes, I also found an excuse and followed him. At the corner of the stairs, I saw Sarah and James. James was intense and asked Sarah if the baby in her stomach was his. James had spent more time secretly meeting Sarah than Mike had spent with her. Given the timing, he thought it must be his own child. It really is yours, I was shocked too. As soon as Sarah finished speaking, James embraced her. Sarah, don't marry him, marry me, our child needs a real father. Marry you? What do you have to offer? You can't even afford Mike's car, and I'll be crying in a luxury car for the rest of my life. I'm about to get promoted, and my pay will go way up when that happens. When it comes to promotion, I can't help but sneer. James and I work in the same company. This time, the company is going to choose a supervisor, and they had originally wanted to promote me, but I privately refused and gave the opportunity to James. In order not to hurt his self-esteem, I didn't tell him. Unexpectedly, I ended up paving the way for someone else. We'll talk about it then. My child will be the happiest person in the future, with a rich father and one who loves them. I put away my phone and returned to the office. How much longer will they be? The staff asked me, and I recalled the affectionate look the two had exchanged when I left, so they probably wouldn't be back for a while. Mike nearby planned to go check on Sarah's situation, but I stopped him. Do you want to see something interesting? I took out my phone and clicked on a video. After a long time, James and Sarah walked in one after the other. Looking at the empty seat, she asked me, "Did Mike go to the restroom?" I stared at her slightly swollen lips and didn't answer her question, but instead asked, "Why is your lip cut?" "I bit it accidentally just now." Sarah panicked and took out her lipstick in a flurry, trying to cover up the broken skin. James even played along by sitting between the two of us, blocking my view. "He went out to look for you too a while ago." When he came back, he was furious and left again without saying anything. As soon as I finished speaking, their bodies instantly went rigid. Another half-hour passed, and Mike still hadn't returned. Sarah tried calling him, but there was no answer. At this point, all Mike had to do was sign, and their marriage license would be valid. I looked at James, who was also anxious, and blurted out, "Why don't we just do ours first?" I handed the signed document to James, whose mind was still on Sarah. It seemed that he had not processed what had just happened. It was not until I patted him that he took the document with a trembling hand, but delayed signing before finally. I knew. He was waiting so that if something went wrong between Sarah and Mike, he could reunite with her. I was not his best choice. The staff member upon seeing this snatched the document from James's hands and said solemnly, "Mr. James, I don't think it's a good idea for you to get a marriage license today. Please think about it some more." "What do you mean?" He roared at the staff member and then looked at me guiltily. He was like a bomb had been detonated. "After being reborn, I've been thinking about it a lot, and now I've finally figured it out. Why did he want to be with Sarah but refuse to break up with me? Because he is very concerned about his image and cannot stand others criticizing him, and also because he is the same kind of person as Sarah, wanting everything and even more." Sarah finally managed to get James on the phone. It only took 2 minutes, and she walked over to us pale-faced. "Let's forget it for today and come back another day," she said, and hurriedly rushed out with her bag. James's eyes were filled with unstoppable joy. He thought that Mike and Sarah had a conflict and that he still had a chance. Unfortunately, Mike disappointed James. The next day, Sarah posted 3 updates in a row on her social media, showing off the big diamond ring that Mike bought for her. She also posted intimate photos with Mike for 3 consecutive days. But she didn't seem to notice the sneer at the corner of Mike's mouth. After all, with the presence of the diamond ring, she saw everything as love. That day, after I showed Mike the video, Mike couldn't help but want to rush up and kill the 2 people who had cheated on him. His fist slammed down on the table, startling the staff. "Bitches." I dissuaded him and reached a consensus. We can't let them off so easily. Everything was prepared for the wedding. We planned to have the wedding first, and all 4 of us agreed to hold a grand ceremony together. During the preparations for the wedding, Mike flaunted their affection whether intentionally or not, which made James furious. One day, I saw him posting a question on Reddit. He said he had a girlfriend but still couldn't forget his ex-girlfriend, which made him miserable. He crafted an image of a lovesick man. Someone replied to him, "Cheap man, still making excuses. Cheating is unforgivable." He immediately banned that person. Then 100 comments appeared below, calling him a scumbag. He was furious, but I was happy. On the day of the wedding, the hall was packed with relatives from the 4 families. Sarah and I were backstage getting our makeup done together. Looking at her slightly protruding belly, I was reminded of my child who I never had the chance to give birth to. I had to make her feel my pain. James also came in at this time. His gaze lingered on Sarah for a long time before finally settling on me. "Honey, you're so beautiful." I gave a perfunctory response and then found an excuse to leave the 2 of them alone. They didn't know that a camera had already been set up in the corner. On the curtain, intimate photos of our 2 couples were constantly playing. Sarah and I were led onto the stage by our respective parents. When both couples stood on the stage, the crowd erupted into deafening applause. During the much-anticipated ring exchange, Sarah was waiting expectantly for Mike to put the big diamond ring on her finger, but instead she received a loud slap. "Bitch!" Because it was projected, every move on stage was clearly visible to everyone. Sarah's relatives were not having it and started rushing onto the stage one after another to stand up for Sarah. Sarah's father even wanted to rush over and slap Mike, but he never imagined that his gentle and filial son-in-law would also give him a slap. If a child is not taught, it is the father's fault. James couldn't stand by and watch his beloved woman get beaten up. Without even pretending to be polite, he yelled, "How dare you hit my woman and my son? I'll fight you." He rushed up and started a fight with Mike. His voice was loud, yet it was drowned out by the noisy crowd. My parents did not understand James's actions and rushed onto the stage to protect me. They didn't know what had happened and thought that Mike had suddenly become violent, so they wanted to help Sarah and James, but I stopped them. As soon as Mike saw James, fury surged through him. Pulling out the stick hidden behind his back, he charged straight at him. He had been training hard at home for a long time, waiting for James. Karen saw James being beaten and shouted, "Let go of my son. Why are you hitting him?" She didn't understand. Obviously, James had not yet told her about Sarah. James's relatives also rushed up, and the three parties immediately tangled into a brawl. Karen came over again to grab me, urging me to help, and I pushed her to the ground. Her malicious words from my previous life were still firmly etched in my mind. "I have a grandson, I've got a grandson. You can go die. You didn't want to have my son's children, but my son is exceptional. There's no shortage of women willing to have them for him. Just step aside." My cold gaze made her tremble. This is just the beginning. Sarah, who was standing nearby, saw the two fighting fiercely and sensed that something bad was about to happen. She turned around and tried to escape from the crowd. Unexpectedly, as soon as she turned around, I grabbed her hair and dragged her back into the crowd. "What are you doing?" "My daughter is pregnant. Are you trying to kill her?" Her mother rushed up to hit me, but my mother was no pushover. Even though I hadn't told her what happened, she still chose to believe me. The woman who usually only acted coquettishly with my father rolled up her sleeves and started fighting against the other woman. My mother had always doted on me, and my sudden departure in my previous life must have been a great blow to her. Thinking about this, my hatred deepened, and I slapped Sarah's face twice with loud slaps. In the midst of the chaos, I pressed the remote control, and James's questioning voice rang out from the screen. "How can you bear to let my child call someone else their father? Isn't that great? With the Mike family's resources and your love, our child's future will be bright. And why not just take a godson? He'll be both a godson and your own son, double the family ties. But if we each marry other people, will we still be able to be together?" "Of course. Wouldn't that be even more exciting?" Then came the sound of two people breathing rapidly and making swallowing noises. A 10-minute recording, the last 8 minutes filled with indescribable sounds from the two. James looked at me in disbelief. Just as he froze in his tracks, Mike climbed on top of him, punching him repeatedly and making him bleed profusely. "You two fucking cheap bastards and bitches. You've booked hotel rooms over 100 times a year, in the early morning, during the day, and at night too." It was only after Mike and I had investigated that we realized that the two of them had never been apart at all, and the first record of them checking into a hotel was on the 3rd day after their breakup. And after their tryst, James brought me food. It was a seamless transition. This is fake. These days pictures and recordings can be faked, let alone. James's face paled, but he still tried his best to defend himself. The relatives from the 3 families who were still fighting all stopped amidst the shameful audio. Photos can be faked, but videos can't, right? I played the video from backstage, and the two of them embraced each other the second after I left. "My heart aches at the thought that you're someone else's bride tonight. I can belong to you now. I'm your bride right now. Be careful with our son." James was wearing the tuxedo I had custom-made for him, and Sarah was wearing the wedding dress Mike had bought for her. Just as they were about to get to the point, James's mother quickly unplugged the power cord from the big screen. But just from their statements, everyone present was able to imagine an infinite number of scenes without even looking. The whole room was silent. "Did you know about this a long time ago? Did you set this up on purpose?" James finally understood that I had just deliberately given them time to be alone. And from the look on Mike's face, it seemed he had also known about James's affair with Sarah a long time ago. James, fuck you. If I don't beat you to death today, I won't be called Mike anymore. After figuring out what happened, Mike's relatives flipped the table first. They felt that Sarah and James had really gone too far, not only cuckolding Mike, but also trying to make him raise someone else's child. A new round of chaos broke out. My mother watched the video and got so angry that her face turned red. She slapped James twice and got into a fight with Karen. My father stopped James's father. The chaotic scene was not brought under control until the police arrived, and everyone except James, who was the most seriously injured, was dispersed. The four families who were left to mediate among themselves. James was taken to the hospital, and Sarah snuck away at some point. Karen spoke first. My son's nose was broken. I want to sue you. This is attempted murder. Sue away. I'll accept whatever punishment comes, and I'll never let this cheating couple off the hook. Mike had given a lot to Sarah and couldn't accept her betrayal, his heart filled with anger. No matter what James's mother or Sarah's mother said, he refused to relent and simply let his lawyer negotiate with them. James's mother gave me a fierce glare and burst into tears. In-laws, you received a bride price and both children are married, so just let this matter go? Forget it? Never. What a pity your son didn't get killed. I smiled and explained to Karen's mother, James and I haven't even got our marriage certificate yet. He himself didn't want to sign it. Now that the wedding hasn't happened, we have nothing to do with each other. The negotiations were unsuccessful, and the relationship between the four families completely broke down. James was discharged from the hospital not long after and couldn't wait to return to the company, as it was the day when the personnel changes were to be announced. But before he could even set foot in the office, he was stopped by several colleagues at the door. They threw everything belonging to James onto the floor. I made sure to invite all my colleagues from the company to the wedding. After I returned, the boss, who had seen the entire wedding proceedings, had HR fire him. I stood upstairs, watching James leave in disgrace while accepting the congratulations of my colleagues. Soon, Mike was fine. I heard that a lot of money was spent on Sarah. Once it was discovered that she had cheated, everyone in the Mike family went to her house every day to demand that they return the $30,000 bride price and the money previously spent. But Sarah had already spent the bride price on luxury goods. Under pressure from the Mike family, Sarah had no choice but to go to James's family and beg them not to press charges. And James's demand was that Sarah had to marry him. A week passed, and I was well-fed and healthy thanks to my parents. I was about to take out the trash when I ran into Sarah and James, who came to collect the $8,800 bride price from me. They didn't bother hiding it anymore and even smirked when they saw me. Sarah held her head high and said, "Here's our wedding invitation. You'd better come." The ring on her finger had gotten quite a bit smaller. James looked indifferent, in stark contrast to the way he had previously shown concern for me. Just transfer the bride price to my bank account, and we'll be even. Bride price? What bride price are you talking about? Don't pretend you don't know. You two haven't gotten married between you, so the bride price is invalid and must be returned. Sarah sneered, as if she thought I didn't want to return the money. Oh, you mean the $8,800? Don't pretend. I've already checked. I didn't give it to you as a gift, so you have to return the money. It's gone, I said, spreading out my hands. How's that possible? I clearly transferred the money to you. You just don't want to return the bride price. I can sue you. I took out my phone and showed him the records on it. The day he transferred the money to me, I used it to buy a stock I'd been eyeing for ages. The phone also had a record of his promise. When I opened the app, it showed that the $8,800 was now down to $8.80. He seemed to remember something and loudly questioned me. Didn't you say that you had insider information about that stock? Didn't you once say that you loved only me? Impossible. What kind of stock would fall like that? Of course, this kind of stock that has almost reached zero is not something that ordinary people can encounter. But in my previous life, I just happened to come across such an absurd stock. Maybe even heaven couldn't stand them. James and Sarah's wedding was scheduled to be held at a hotel in a remote area of the city, so I had to get up early and drive for 3 hours to get there. When James and Sarah saw me, their expressions turned grim. After all, they only invited me that day to make me feel bad, but they didn't think I'd actually show up. I looked at Sarah's round and bulging belly and laughed. You'd better get the dad right, otherwise the kid might end up with the wrong dad. At this point, Sarah gritted her teeth and deliberately showed off her diamond ring. This is much bigger than what James prepared for you originally. I laughed without saying a word. I hope she can still laugh later on. Are you here for the meal or to cause trouble? Are you always this rude to your ex-girlfriend? I handed them a red envelope containing $25. Today promised some good drama, so I certainly wasn't going to miss that. These were the same guests from the last wedding, and they obviously still had a strong impression of me, as they avoided me. I had to sit alone at a table. After a few minutes, Mike arrived. He sat down at the table with me, and I teased him. Did they invite you? No, they wouldn't let me in, so I snuck in through the back of the kitchen. Did you give a gift? I nodded. What about you? My gift comes later. When James and Sarah took to the stage to give their speeches, their eyes remained fixed on Mike and me. Learning from past experience, they didn't project any pictures and play any music. But when the last dish was served, an unusual sound came from under the table. And this time it wasn't James's, but another man's. Sarah baby, I've missed you so much. The entire crowd erupted into an uproar. Mike and I stood up and started clapping. The wedding fell through again. 6 months later, I heard from James again. After the wedding, James couldn't stand the idea of Sarah having other men, so he asked her for a divorce, but Karen was adamantly opposed to the idea of having a grandson. It wasn't until Sarah gave birth to her granddaughter that Karen drove her out of the house with a broom. And James has been sending me messages from time to time recently. I think my true love is still you. We've been together for 3 years. Can you really let go? Is this what it means to be forever restless for what you can't have? I ignored him. A few minutes later, he sent me a picture of him kissing another woman. He messaged, "Don't think you're the only woman in the world. I'm still a great catch. Do you regret it? I can give you another chance." I didn't reply. He went crazy, sending me intimate photos of himself with other women every day. I sent all the photos to Sarah. On the first day of winter, Sarah barged into the James family home with a knife, injuring Karen and severing James's family jewels. She had gone insane by the time she was arrested. I was traveling abroad when I heard the news. I laughed until my tears ran as I caressed my flat stomach. I had finally avenged the child I had never gotten to meet.